So I want to review X and Y intercepts. I will say that under normal circumstances, we're usually talking about Y intercepts, so be super careful when you're asked to identify an X intercept. So an X intercept is basically just where the line crosses the X axis. So we're going to look at different types of problems. So this is in a graph. So we look at the line. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis, obviously. So where the line touches the x-axis is here. And so that x-intercept is the point 2, 0. Notice that the y value is a 0, which takes us to the next part where you have a table. So for an x-intercept, you're looking for where y equals 0 to find the x-intercept, which makes sense here, because if it's touching the x-axis, it's got to be on the y-axis at 0. So if we're looking along the y values here, I do not see a 0. So sometimes they leave it out and you have to figure it out on your own. 0 would obviously be here, halfway in between -1 and +1. So we can decide halfway between 2 and 3 would be 2.5. So your value for this one would be 2.5, 0. Then finally, here we have an equation. This is in standard form. And if we're trying to find the x-intercept, then we just replace the y with a 0. So what happens is the y goes away, and now you just have 2x equals -18, divide both sides by 2, and x equals -9. So your point would be -9, 0. Again, noticing that all of the y values are 0 for here. So then if we move on to y-intercepts, it's exactly the opposite. It's where x equals 0. So if you're looking here, this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis. Where does the line touch the y-axis? Right here at 2. So your point would be 0, 2. Again, your x value is 0. So if we're looking at this table, we find where x equals 0, and it's here. So this y-intercept would be the point 0, 30. Again, the x value is 0. So then here we have an equation. We're going to replace the x value with 0. That gets rid of your x's, so you just have 12y equals 0. Divide both sides by 12, and that is okay to have. It's a 0. So our y-intercept here would be 0 for the x and 0 for the y, which means that one actually crossed through the origin. So just be careful when you're finding y-intercepts, just plug in x is 0. And for x-intercepts, we're looking where y equals 0.